Everybody, this is the news that we are waking up to for Friday, May the 9th, Parade Day. Today was the Victory Day Parade. I say was because it's already over. Unbelievable. So Putin got his parade. Xi Jinping was there. The whole thing was over in about 37 minutes. I mean, do you remember the old days of the Soviet Victory Day parades, where it seemed like the tanks and the bombs went by for hours? None of that today. In and out, done. And Putin was moved off the bandstand as soon as it was over. He met in a reception line with some military commanders from Russia and foreign nations, and then he was gone. Now, I assume he's off to meetings with Xi Jinping and these other world leaders that are there. But the parade went off without a hitch. We've been speculating what we might see today, what Ukraine might do. Clearly, they did not hit the parade. And some things have happened in the last 24 hours that may indicate that the very best thing that Ukraine could do today is nothing. Now, as everybody knows, I have repeatedly said that whatever Ukraine does today is going to be a surprise, and it's going to be more interesting than anything we could have thought of. And it seems like now Ukraine has come under new pressure not to take any action during Putin's self-declared ceasefire. We know Xi asked him, right, that the leader of China, and I'll tell you, I couldn't help thinking as Xi was up there watching this parade that he was thinking to himself, now I've won. Russia is so weak and so dependent on me that I will be able to do whatever I want with this vassal nation. That, it seemed to be Xi triumphant on the bandstand today. Now, why I think we may not see anything happen today is because yesterday Trump called Zelensky. They spoke for 20 minutes. According to Zelensky, they congratulated each other on the minerals deal, which had recently passed in the legislature here, making it official for Ukraine. And they talked about a 30-day ceasefire. The Donald wants a ceasefire, and this is what he had to say about that. Talks with Russia, Ukraine continue. This was right after the call with Zelensky. The U.S. calls for, ideally, a 30-day unconditional ceasefire, which Zelensky, for his part, has already agreed to. Said if the Russian guns fall silent, we will fall silent. Hopefully, an acceptable ceasefire will be observed. Now, Trump seems to be saying that this 3-day ceasefire of Putin's, which the Russians have violated 2,000 times now in the 36 hours since it was declared, that this ceasefire is the first 3 days of the 30-day ceasefire. Okay, what else does he say? An acceptable ceasefire will be observed and both countries will be held accountable for respecting the sanctity of these direct negotiations. If the ceasefire is not respected, the U.S. and its partners will impose further sanctions. Thousands of young soldiers are dying on a weekly basis, and everybody should want it to stop. I do, and the United States of America does also. As president, I will stay committed, completely changing course from last week where he was walking away. I will stay committed to securing peace between Russia and Ukraine together with Europeans, and a lasting peace it will be. Now, right there, those two sentences are such an obvious admission of failure. They tried to strong-arm Ukraine. They tried to extort Ukraine. They tried to extort the Europeans with tariffs, force them into submission, cut them out of the negotiations. And now that they see that the Ukrainians and the Europeans have hung tough, and they didn't give a fuck if America walked away, he's back saying that we're going to be in this together now. Trump is not in anything together with anybody. and never will be. Everything is transactional for him. This ceasefire must ultimately build toward a peace agreement. It can all be done very quickly, and I will be available on a moment's notice if my services are required, are needed. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Thank you for your attention to this matter? That's the kind of, that's what you say, when you call customer support and you expect something to be done for you. Thank you for your attention to this matter. That's the kind of thing that you close your complaint email to HR with. Or, it sounds like a note to Putin, frankly. Thank you for your attention to this matter, sir. Overall, we have seen a slight deviation from the White House when it comes to its position on Ukraine and Russia since the minerals deal has been signed. We saw $360 million worth of arms sales approved, the first arms sales to Ukraine approved by the Trump administration. Yesterday, we saw J.D. Vance say something reasonable and intelligent. We believe the Russians are asking for too much. No shit, Sherlock. There's a wide gap between where the Ukrainians and the Russians stand, finally acknowledging some reality in this situation. And then again, Trump, I think, really acknowledged the situation. We have to stay in this. We can't walk away. And it doesn't look like we have the cards to push everybody else out. Another admission of reality. Now, here's the clincher for me about why Ukraine may do nothing today or tomorrow. A ready-made scandal in the headlines to throw Pete Hegseth under the bus. The White House is now saying that the Pentagon stopped Ukraine military aid shipments in February without Trump's approval. The aid shipments to Ukraine were stopped? It's the first I'm hearing about it. Yeah. Now look, for this to be true, you have to admit one of two things. Either Trump is not running the government, his staff is, and they are running amok, and he doesn't even know what they're doing, or every one of them is a potential scapegoat acting on his and his orders alone, ready to be thrown under the bus when the first plan doesn't work and take the blame for the failure. This sounds very much like the way that the Russians dealt with the Tsar. The Tsar never knew what the problems were. It was the evil bureaucrats. We need to blame them. And we see the same thing with the Putin regime. And now we're seeing it in the United States. And Pete Hegseth will be the first victim of it. This ploy, this plan, which I believe it is, I don't believe for a second that Pete Hegseth, a weekend news anchor on Fox, stopped military aid shipments to Ukraine because he thought it was a good idea. No. The guy was acting on the orders of the White House. I would put American, not Rivna, real money, American money on that. I would bet. So all of this could well signal to Ukraine. Now, we don't know exactly what was said between Putin and Zelensky yesterday. For all we know, between Trump and Zelensky. I do get Putin and Trump confused. They're of one mind. Why wouldn't I? We don't know what Trump said to Zelensky. How easy would it have been for Trump to say, Volodymyr, look, I just need 72 hours. Just don't do anything for 72 hours. Playing his role for his boss in the Kremlin, making sure that Ukraine doesn't rain on the parade. And at the same time, moving ever slightly in the direction that his domestic allies are pushing him to support Ukraine. Making a promise to Zelensky, maybe, I don't know this, but maybe making a promise to Zelensky of hey, you want to buy those Patriots? Make sure you're not the one that breaks the ceasefire. Maybe I'll sell you those Patriots. I don't know. We don't know. But all of this leads me to believe that we could very well see Ukraine not do anything for these 3 days. Wait for Russia to clearly break the ceasefire. And then, with all their drones already ready to go for today, hit Moscow where it hurts. Something like that may well play out. Now, I don't know, of course. We may well see a major attack on Crimea tonight. Certainly, the Russians haven't obeyed this ceasefire. We've seen them launch plane after plane of glide bombs at Sumy, trying to destroy yet another Ukrainian city and soften the target for an invading force that is only being held off by a new Ukrainian incursion into Russia on parade day. So the parade was not hit. We may very well see Zelensky not take any action until we see a real scaled attack from the Russians. Something that undeniably is Russian aggression and a failure to abide by the terms of any ceasefire. And then Ukraine hit back and asked Trump to come through with his promises, which I absolutely believe he put some kind of carrot in front of Zelensky yesterday. And that may well be best for Ukraine. Regardless, what I have said all along is that whatever happens today will be a surprise, and it will be in Ukraine's long-term strategic interest. And I think that much is true. All right, I'm Peter Alexievich. Guys, we're having a problem here in Kyiv today. It's a real problem. The internet is like molasses in January. I don't know what's going on. I can't even get YouTube to play. And we may be under some kind of cyber attack. There may be some bottleneck in the pipes somewhere. I'm not sure. But it is certainly slowing my production, boy. Anyway, that's what's going on here today. That's what's going on in Moscow. With a little bit of luck, I'll see everybody in the live tonight. Thanks. Take care.